Well, Christmas, certainly a warm week across the country, but looking at the long range outlook, we're also going to look at what the Climate Prediction Center is putting out. There are signals, and over the last couple of days, we've started to see this on the European weeklies, the control run. These would be the 7-day height anomalies, or you can look at this also to judge where maybe it's going to be cold or warm. But you can see a definite pattern change as we head toward the 9th, the 10th, the 11th. Something that's happening too that I think is really interesting is this blocking that's happening up across the Hudson Bay. This is not a typical stretched polar vortex that sets up and just cranks the cold in. This looks really strange. We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. This could put some storms in places where they normally don't go. And maybe some winter surprises are on the way. We're going to talk about that here just a little bit. We're also going to talk about the warmth that we're dealing with right now. I certainly am not going to gloss over this. It is extremely warm. However, let me show you some signals I think that are possibly hidden beneath the surface when you look at NOAA's long-range outlooks. These are your week 3 to 4 temperature outlooks. These were just issued on the 19th, so certainly not that old. Warmer than average temperatures, at least the potential for that across the country. All right, these are chances of seeing above normal temperatures. This would be the 13th again through the 16th. Look what happens when you take the entire month of January. What happened? We added the 16th to the end of the month. Look at this. Equal chances across a lot of the country. Still above average, I think, into Texas, across the Gulf Coast. That doesn't change, but this looks a lot different than maybe this, right? And certainly if you look at this week and the next week, it's going to be really warm through the first of the year in many areas except the Northeast and across the West, the big storm moving in, but a lot different looking here. And check this out. This would be your seasonal outlook. This would be the rest of January, February, into March. This right here almost mirrors what we were talking about back in September and October with that that La Nina / ENSO neutral phase where it's warmer here across the south. And some of that tries to squeeze up the East Coast. That also puts the storm potential, I think, back into this region for heavier rain, heavier snow events. A lot of winter to go. If you're a snow lover, do not let this week get you down. Guys, I'm an avid skier. I love being on the slopes. I ain't worried about it. All right, that's just me. There's more snow and cold on the way. Although the older I get, the less I like the cold. And as we head into January, I just want to show you something. This is, again, the control run of the European. I think this is going to mean waves of warmth and cold. It's not looking favorable for a lot of cold across the Gulf. It doesn't mean you won't get your cold shots, but an interesting look here for the East as we head into January and February. Again, this is just analysis. We're looking at long-range model guidance. That gets on your nerves and you can't handle it. I get it. Some people get really upset when we look at long-range outlooks. And I think, to me, you just look at trends. And the trends that I see heading into January are looking a little bit colder. If you like this kind of stuff, maybe you're a weather geek like me, subscribe, come back. We talk about this all the time. This is a live stream, by the way, if you're joining. Thanks for coming over. It reminds me of TV back when I worked in television. And you know, the thing about it is if you mess up, you just got to keep going. So that's what we're going to do. If you missed a live stream, though, the point is you can always go back, check it out, subscribe, come back, and more updates like this to come. Let's talk about the next couple of days and what I think we're going to see. All this warmth. The warm air is coming out of Mexico. All right. It's southwest flow. The air is actually colder at 850 millibars across the Gulf into the southern states. There comes that warmth. That's going to really push north as we head through Wednesday and Thursday. A cold shot into the northeast. This warm air, though, I want to show you something. You've got a lot of cold air digging in just off the west coast. Jet stream kind of coming in like this. All right. What you're seeing, though, aloft is some warmer air overriding this cold air at the surface. As that happens, there's the potential, I think, for some ice. That could cause some big travel problems. We'll talk about that today. And look what happens. Here's your real cold. Look what happens around the 28th and 29th. We try to tap into some of that, right? So it puts it back down here into the upper Midwest, into the east. It brings another shot of cold. This is going to be pretty progressive, I think, because look, your southwest flow out ahead of the next piece of cold air dropping through the prairies is moving south. How far does it go? Well, the operational European last night brought it pretty far to the south, but it doesn't look like what we were dealing with toward the 1st of December. I can't even imagine how cold it would be if we were dealing with that pattern as we head into January. We're not. I don't think it's going to be as cold, maybe, but I think we're going to get some unique looking storms that, again, could be in different areas than what we've seen so far. Snow headed into the northeast. May stick around long enough for a white Christmas for some of you guys here into New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. Snow's going to be tough to squeeze out along the coast, but there will be some snow across this area as we head into the 23rd, the 24th. So this would be Tuesday into Wednesday. Too warm for any snow across the central U.S. A lot of clouds, maybe a little bit of rain too, moving back into the mid-Atlantic, into West Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. I think this area is going to be kind of gray. It's going to be beautiful, though, across the plains with southwest flow. Quite a bit of sunshine, at least more sun. That overrunning moisture continues to try to work north and east, so we'll start to see clouds build in this area and across the west, which we're going to look at this too. A big storm moving in, heavy snow, heavy rain, 5 to 10 inches of rain, maybe even closer to 15 in some of the upslope areas with 2 to 4 feet of snow by the time it's all said and done into the Sierra. It's the first big snow we've really seen this year of this magnitude, where you also are dealing with flooding. Tremendous amount of flooding, advisories, watches, warnings, all of it's out into California as this big storm moves here into the west. It's also going to push some heavier snow into the northern Rockies. Maybe we'll get some snow here into the Wasatch, the San Juans, the Colorado Rockies, north up into Wyoming. Some snow falling here into Utah. As some colder air moves in, those snow levels will come down somewhat. Into the northeast. This is an interesting look, right? We're going to zoom into this a little bit closer, but that overrunning moisture starts to create some freezing rain problems from Michigan all the way down into PA. So watch this, heading into the 26th now, the 27th. That actually could cause some problems. I don't know. In New York, we may be a little too warm, but watch this area, and the further north you go, it's going to be all snow. And the European has been pretty strong on our next storm that's going to move out of the west. Okay, so it's really going to be driven by this trough. Okay, and out ahead of it, you start to see low pressure develop, and it's been pretty strong over the last couple of runs. It's much stronger than the GFS and the Canadian. Bring in some colder air. This would be that next cold shot, Arctic high pressure sliding south, and temperatures on the way down. So you could say goodbye to the warmth in this area. We're back to reality with temperatures falling back below freezing and the snow showers going around the Great Lakes with lake effect snow. Let's push this out in time. There comes that return flow. We've been talking about that. It's not going to be a lasting cold, very progressive, I guess, would be the way to describe this pattern. It's just moving really quickly. The cold holds in the northeast again. The very cold air is up here across Canada. Some snow. I don't know, man. If it gets all the way down to the valley floors in the northwest, this is a cold look here as we head toward the first. Long way to go on the operational European. I don't like to look at something this far out, but pretty active. And then look, it gets crazy looking around the 5th and the 6th. This would be supported, I think, by that higher anomaly heights across those or higher than average heights across Canada, which is that pressure level at 500 millibars. Again, we're getting a little too deep here in the weeds a little bit, but I don't know. I think the pattern could support this, could and would and might and maybe. A lot of those at this point. It's long range. I don't have any faith in that. I'm just shopping this time period. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, we talk about that. I'm not buying yet. We're just looking at it at this point. We're definitely buying the snow into the Pacific Northwest, into the higher elevations of British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon. Those snow levels are kind of high right now, out ahead of this low that's moving up the coast. Not only are we bringing in the moisture, but we're also going to bring in some warmer air. So those snow levels are relatively high. Some heavy rain, flooding, that's going to be a concern. Snow levels start to crash down eventually, but still a lot of rain on the way. I think through Christmas Day, we do bring those snow levels down once we get, I think, into Christmas afternoon, Christmas evening, dropping here into the Sierra. Further inland, down into the valleys, very little snow, if anything. We've seen record warmth across the west. And here's the deal. It's not going to be super, super cold, but I would argue this would be a little colder than what we've seen lately. So snow levels do come down. And now we're getting toward the 28th and 29th. So we're looking at next weekend, this upcoming weekend. This upper low could do some interesting things here in the far southwest. Does it put enough moisture into Phoenix for some rain showers, some snow into the higher elevations? More to come on that, but it still stays active here across the Pacific Northwest. We're talking about feet of snow again into the Sierra. That's the sweet spot for heavy snow. That Sierra concrete's going to be coming down for sure, but it's what's needed, especially on the slopes, and to build the snowpack up in this region, as we're going to see. Look at this. I mean, you have to look at this and go, are these centimeters? No, these are inches of snow showing up. 76, 84, 94, just south of Tahoe here, Lake Tahoe. A lot of snow on the way through this upcoming week. And again, with the snow comes the rain, unfortunately, and I think mudslides, landslides, a lot of precipitation are going to cause problems, especially in those burn scar areas. National Weather Service out here talking about that out of Sacramento. And some of that rain actually moving into Arizona too. Not as heavy, though, again, as what we're seeing here into the Sierra with that snow in those higher elevations. Further inland we go. Let's talk about Utah, Colorado. That snow is going to hold off at least the heavier stuff until the 27th and 28th. It's also going to snow up here into Wyoming. The higher elevations of Montana, here in the western parts of the states, also into Idaho. Let's go a little bit further to the east. We're going to get some snow up into the Canadian Rockies, too, but some of that starts to push out into the prairies. Edmonton, some snow on the way here into Calgary, a little bit of snow, but, not a lot here into Montana. Most of that snow falling up into Canada where it's really cold. Temperatures well below zero as we head into Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon, highs pretty warm across Texas. Look at those 60s and 70s working north. Let's go ahead and move to the east. A little bit of light snow moving here through southern parts of Ontario, Manitoba, over into Ontario, pushing east. Dry, though, here across the Dakotas, into Nebraska, down to Missouri, looking beautiful, up to Iowa, Minnesota. Southerly flow. Temperatures will start to warm up. Our next system brings some snow, heavier snow here into the Canadian Rockies. Some of that trying to slip east of the mountains, but some warm air also working north. That could cause some mixed precipitation right here along the U.S.-Canadian border. And this is that next icy setup that we're looking at further to the east, which we're going to track that out too. Further to the south, in the same sort of area, just a little bit further south, rain moving back into Texas here along the Gulf Coast as we get some, again, this doesn't look like a washout, but a few showers possible here heading into Wednesday. Otherwise, a few showers working north as we get that overrunning moisture here across parts of Indiana, Illinois, into Ohio. Too warm for snow. And there's all the snow moving back here into the Rockies, rain into the valleys. There's the mixed precipitation into Friday, overrunning moisture over top of that cold dome of air. So there could be some ice from Green Bay, Marquette. I don't know. We may end up with snow up in the parts of the UP, but then we transition over to some freezing rain and sleet. And then as everything ends, it may end as just a plain rain as that warm air from the southwest builds. This is where the surface low starts to strengthen. As your trough moves in from the west, surface pressures start to fall out ahead of it, and you get low pressure developing, moving towards the Great Lakes, pulling warm air up ahead of it, dragging cold air down behind it. So rain to snow with this setup and very windy, and lake effect starts to kick back up, putting more snow down here in the UP. And now we're getting out into that period where it gets questionable. We talked about that at the beginning of the video. You can go back and watch that if you missed it. Here's where the snow is going to fall. Not much across the U.S., mostly falling across Canada over the next week or so. Temperatures, again, way too warm for snow. Let's look at where we're going to be as we head through Monday. 60s all the way up into South Dakota. 70s, this is nothing. Hold on to your horses here. Look at the overnight low temperatures. Boom, right there. 62 for Memphis. Mid-60s across Texas. Texarkana may not get below 65 degrees tonight. Very mild. Cool, maybe a little bit above average the further north you go, but it's not blazing hot up here in Minnesota, right? We're talking about single digits. The warmth, though, spreading east into Kentucky and Tennessee, Mississippi. We start to see those numbers rise even more heading into Christmas Eve. We're up into the mid-70s, close to 80 across a lot of Texas, and 70s across Tennessee into Kentucky. We're back up into the 60s, and that warm air continues to stick around through Christmas Day. Not a lot of warmth further to the north. I would argue still relatively cold. Maybe a little jealous if you're looking down towards Oklahoma City, setting at 80 degrees or at least close to that on Christmas Day. It's not going to last, though. We showed you that. Oh, let's go back to that, by the way. We showed you the upper level pattern change, and we didn't actually look at the temperatures heading into Friday. Into Saturday, still pretty warm here, right? This is not going anywhere, at least for a couple of days. Here comes the front. At this point, it looks like it's going to move through sometime Saturday into Sunday, bringing our temperatures at least closer to average. Sunday, these would be your highs. I had to look at that for a second. I was like, are these the lows? I mean, our lows are warmer than our highs are going to be on Sunday. And then highs on Monday back into the 40s and 50s across a lot of the central southern plains. Teens and single digits back across parts of the Great Lakes. Into the northeast, too, where it's going to stay cold here. Some snow on the way, too. A couple of inches could fall here into New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. We could get a couple of inches out of this. Change it to some rain on this side of this system as the warm air works in from the west. And then behind this low, this will be interesting to see. Do we get enough snow here that could exceed 6 inches into parts of Portland, or I should say in parts of Maine, including Portland, right along the coast here? I don't know. We actually may get more snow right here into this western part of Maine than maybe down East Maine. Behind this, winds turn northwest, it turns a little bit colder. It reinforces the cold air for our next piece of energy that slides through. That's going to bring some soggy, damp. I'm just going to tell you right in here, this is going to be kind of gross looking as you get this overrunning moisture, a lot of cloud cover, and there comes the precip starting to pick up. Now that cold air at the surface being reinforced by high pressure just to the north. So that cold air pumping in place. And as that does so, it's reluctant to go. It's more dense than the lighter, warmer air rises up over top of that. And you get the sleet and the freezing rain. Those snowflakes fall through a layer of warm air. They melt. But right at the surface, it's cold enough to get that refreezing on contact. That could be a problem. Friday, especially into Pennsylvania, parts of western New York, up into Ontario, even into Michigan, there's going to be an issue here that I think we have to watch. This is for freezing rain and sleet. Sleet on the front end of it as you transition from snow. I'm going to draw a line here. Look, here into New York and New Jersey, we may start as snow, transition to sleet, then transition to freezing rain, and then transition to just plain rain as that warm air erodes what's happening here with the wintry precipitation. Everything starts to warm up, even into the Northeast, where we've stayed mostly snow. Ski resorts could get a little icy here as we end up with that cold air getting scoured out and everything changing to freezing rain, especially aloft as that warm nose aloft moves in. I mean, we're talking about enough of a warm nose to melt that snow layer all the way up into Canada out ahead of this low. And then behind it, we crash back down. Everything freezes back up. It turns cold. This could be one heck of a lake effect event with a westerly trajectory on the winds here, downwind of Lake Erie in Ontario, heading into the following week. So next Monday and Tuesday. So a week from today. And then the cold air settles in here to the east. Bit of a warm up again. And then we run the same scenario. I think more warm air moving north. This is kind of following what I think winter is going to do here into the southeast. It might get a little warm here along the coast. And now you're wondering, all right, so if it's colder back here, it's warmer here, do you end up developing these storms that ride up the coast? Classic Miller-Ray snowstorm on the way? I don't know. Not yet. I don't see it, but you got to have the pattern. It's kind of shifting that way into December, or I should say January, out of December. Here's your snow at least through Thursday. This is getting mixed up with some freezing rain and ice. You're not going to get a foot of snow, I don't think, into New York. Here's the forecast over the next couple of days. This would take you through Christmas. Just to time some of this out, a lot of this falling on Tuesday. These are touch numbers from the National Weather Service. More than 6 inches possible. Again, right here along the coast into Maine, into the Green and White Mountains. Also here into northern New York, western New York, not as much snow back here. The Poconos could see a couple of inches, but once you get down here into New York City, not as much snow falling. In fact, the official forecast, once you get here into New York, relatively low compared to what we're going to see, I think, into, again, parts of down east Maine. Looks like half an inch or so. Not a lot of snow. Temperatures on the way up, too. Here's where we're going to be this afternoon as we head into tonight. Cold into the northeast, across the mid-south, warming up across Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, back up into the 70s, Macon to Atlanta, to Savannah, to Valdosta, Jacksonville, Florida looking beautiful. Tampa may hit 80. Beautiful weather for Florida. And it's beautiful, to be fair, across the Midwest and into the parts of the Mid-South. St. Louis could actually get up into the 60s and 70s. So, if you're thinking about a getaway to a warmer climate for Christmas, I don't know that you got to go anywhere. You're sitting here in, Little Rock, sitting in the mid-70s. Once we get into Christmas Day, you're waking up Christmas morning. I'm going to slow this down. How about 60 for Lexington, Frankfort, Louisville, Nashville? I mean, you may not get below 60, at least into the upper 50s. That warm air spreads east Christmas afternoon. 70s up to Columbia. Southern parts of Illinois and Indiana, Evansville into the mid-60s. Richmond up into the mid-60s, I think. Raleigh. Charlotte may hit 70. Atlanta. Columbia, South Carolina. Really warm. It's going to come to an end into the northeast, though. There comes that reinforcing shot of cold air below zero temperatures. You guys aren't going to really warm up much. Don't get me wrong. We've got some mixed precip moving in, and here's all that warm air, right? It's overriding that cold, and it's really warm, too. Once we get into the Sunday and Monday of next week, much colder temperatures. So ski resorts in the east, bit of a break for you. You're going to get the snowmaking going back again, build those bases back up. We're going to take a battering in some areas. Maybe not the northeast as much, but I think once you get maybe south of this line, a little tough going here from PA all the way down into North Carolina with some warmer weather. We do warm back up again ahead of the next system, it looks like to me anyway, but more cold kind of lurking.